Thank you for tuning in to Ungentrified with Kent Johnson. Ungentrified takes an unfiltered view on pop culture, music, television and film, politics, current events, and topics central to the worldwide Black community. Ungentrified is a safe audio space for celebrating Black culture in its purest form. Thank you for joining another episode of Ungentrified, a very special episode of Ungentrified. We're back this week to recap last night's episode of Insecure. Of course, I have Bianca with me.
Hey.
and we're going to get right into it. So last night's episode was familiar-like, and I think that rang true because there were a lot of scenarios that I think were familiar to a lot of people. The first thing that comes to mind is being the voice of all Black people all of the time when you're at work. Raise your hand if you have been the voice of all Black people.
I have like 6 hands up, okay, because I work in corporate America and everybody looks at me for everything.
Yeah, so that was a trigger moment for me. In law school, every time I was in a class that was related to criminal stuff, they always turned to me as the point of reference. It was because I was usually the only Black person in class, or it was me and maybe one other Black person. So we always sat next to each other because we just knew that it was going to be directed to us. And we would always have to step up and be the voice of all Black people all of the time, which was frustrating.
But I think you could even take that back to high school. I mean,
Yeah.
You and I both went to a predominantly not Black high school.
Yes.
I mean, we were 5%. So I often got that in my classes because I was in certain classes where it was really me and one other Black girl, and I had to read, when we had to read like history autobiographies, I had to read the slave girl ones. So, I mean, I've been feeling that look to me for the Black perspective or for the African American perspective since as long as I can remember. So I definitely felt Issa's pain in that moment.
Yeah. Oh, look, you drudged up an old memory from high school. I remember being in political science class in my senior year of high school, and this was in San Diego. So this was when affirmative action was being overturned in California. So there was this big talk about it, and I was representative for the Black folk opinion on that and had to fight like 12 battles that day around why affirmative action was a necessity at that time. And I remember being pissed at folks who had shown me a new side of them in that period. So yeah.
I remember those days. I think you get comfortable. Like, you look at people through one lens, and then when certain subjects or certain events come up, then you sometimes see them through a whole other lens, which could be the case for them looking at us too, right? Like, oh, we're corporate America, we're talking about X, Y, and Z. But then like when something Black people comes up, then they are like, oh wait, let me switch over to, you're not my corporate confidant, you're my Black confidant.
Right.
So I think it goes both ways. I definitely felt that my whole life, except for, when we went to a historically Black school, that's when I let my Black people flag fly. So, that's when I think I felt more comfortable being myself and trying to figure out how to navigate both sides, going from almost all white to almost all Black. And then coming into corporate America, I was able to kind of like be that median. And now my new role is in corporate. It's in global inclusion and diversity. So the group I'm in now, I mean, that's all we talk about. So at least I'm not the Black person in this group.
And it was worthy of note. It also brought up something about just how everybody's super aware and like hypersensitive right now, and how these conversations would have been had 10 years ago at We Got Y'all. And
no. Well,
And
clearly they weren't with the
right.
white hand
It's my
holding.
hand.
Oh my God. That cracked me up so bad. She was like, it's not racist. It's my hand. Like, I can't see what you guys are saying because this is my hand.
Right. And her intent may be, completely credible and not to take away from any of it, but it was just it's not valid anymore. I mean, if you think about some of the stuff we used to say not even 5 years ago, I wouldn't dare say now. Uh,
No.
but shout out to the coworker who was like, we should really be listening to Issa on
Right.
this and not uh,
She did. She said, I'm pretty sure whatever Issa thinks is right.
right, right. So, shout out to using your voice to amplify the voices that needed to be heard. But yeah, it's frustrating when you've been saying these things for years and years and years, and now because someone else has brought it up, it's become an issue, or someone's validated what I've been saying. It's now an issue worthy of discussion.
Hmm.
So yeah, that definitely felt familiar.
I almost even find myself like trying to be the devil's advocate at this point because there's so many people on the quote unquote woke side. I feel like, how can I make sure that they don't over, like, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's like, you know, overcorrect. I
Hmm.
want them to kind of like see the whole picture and not just be like the super woke side. So sometimes I even find myself now trying to be the devil's advocate, or in Issa's case, the quiet one. Like, you guys go ahead and hash that out, and then I'll just pipe up later with a confirmation.
Right, right, because you also don't want to be the one that gets blamed for for anything too. It's like, nah, these were your white ideas. Like,
Why do they have to be white ideas though?
well, my bad. No, and Chicano ideas. I was so happy when I heard, oh girl, we like and Chicano, because I haven't heard that word in on the East Coast in so long.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true.
so it was very much a West Coast
Yeah,
reference to the Latinx experience. But
it's true.
yeah. Um One thing that I'm thankful isn't too familiar was that 425 credit score popping up again. Ooh, now my credit has had some struggles. I too was a victim of predatory
I'm
credit
sorry, I can't
cards
stop laughing.
on campus. When I first got to Morgan, I
Ooh, when
remember,
Discover
right,
came,
Discover, Capital One, all of them being all up on campus, going for everybody, knowing I ain't have no job.
knowing that all they was given was a water bottle.
Right. Give me a $45,000 limit. What I'm gonna do with that? So
Hmm.
I look, I too am a part of that struggle. And I wish there was a class action suit that I could get behind that. I feel like there was at one point. I know they've stopped that, like they can't be on campus anymore.
Right.
But yeah. So I ain't never been that low though.
No, and I had a really bad credit score, and I thought I was at the bottom. I didn't know that
Yeah,
it could
like
go. Well, you heard Kelly. Kelly said there's bad, or what is it, poor, and then Issa.
yeah.
No, it was like poor, bad, then Issa. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
that
was worse than I thought. That conversation, I loved that Kelly was keeping it real with her and was like, "No, sister, you're not getting into no kind of apartment anytime soon with this credit score."
right, right. Stop playing games. As a matter of fact,
Hmm.
every time you apply for a credit score, you just hurting. I mean, apply for a apartment, you just hurting your credit score even more.
I
Like,
know, right? Because if they run your credit, I would just be like, "Here's the last one that I had.
right.
Like, I just ran this 2 days ago. Can you just use this one?"
Or just look, I got a 425. Let's be clear. Like, I'm calling you with this. Do I even need to pay the fee? Yeah. Ah,
Right.
man.
Because I'm not going to lie about a 425. Do you really need to run it again?
Right, right. Yeah, nobody's gonna lie about that. Yeah, whew.
But I was excited though, because Kelly, I was excited to see Kelly from Jump. I told you last week I was excited for Kelly,
Mm.
and she delivered. She need her own show. Like, she came on, and I was laughing from start to finish. And then when they started singing, she was like, "You're not gonna get in unless you have like 4 months rent." And so she was like, "I've been saving, I've been." They was like dancing, and then she said, "Oh no, boo, no." She shut it down.
Yeah, Kelly is the consummate fool, but I, yeah, like, but she's real enough to tell her friend, like, look, come on now. You need to
Mhm.
really, all right, this is fun and games. However, the real deal is you got some money issues.
Right.
Uh,
And then the whole conversation after that, I was loving every minute of of Kelly saying, like how you staying up in Daniel's house so long if you not, well, she said, are you concubining? Which I will now start using. Are you concubining? She was like, you suck it, you fuck it.
you touch it.
Do
Did
you
you
just
touch
wait?
it? Right.
Do you just wake up with it inside you? I can't.
Yeah.
I love her. And then she said, never, she said, don't look a gift horse in the dick. Issa was like, that's not a saying. She was like, yeah, it is. My grandmama said it to me.
And I feel like her grandmother really did.
I do too. And I feel like her grandma should be on her show too.
Yeah. But no, that was a trigger moment for me because, well, not that conversation, but the fact that Issa really had to swallow her pride and be like, "Can I stay a little bit longer?" And
Hmm.
when I think we've all stayed at somebody's spot at one point, and then you realize that you come into it like, I can't be a nuisance to this person, and you're like the super cooker, the super cleaner. If you
Hmm.
don't have money to contribute, and a lot of times if you're moving in with somebody, you normally don't have the money to contribute. Um, but you
Right.
don't want to be that thing. But Issa came in and was a bum off jump, and then realized that she should have been cooking and cleaning and making tacos and
Right.
doing all this stuff. So
Well,
yeah,
she can't be making tacos because that's how Taraji got back with with baby boy.
you're right.
I'm a cook. I'm a clean.
She made them tacos. Oh, but yeah, so now she's realizing that, all right, I really am getting a true benefit out of this. I can come and go as I please. He's not even staying in his house at this moment. Like, he done gave me full run of the house, and I ain't doing nothing in
Hmm.
here but complaining about the couch. So she
Yeah.
definitely stepped it up.
Well, I think that was all because of that whole awkward Matrix move she made last week. He was like, "Look, I already told her she could stay here, so I'm not. It's really bad when you run out your own house
Right.
and is staying somewhere else." So, he completely felt uncomfortable at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not even sure if he wanted to be at Vanessa's house because Vanessa was kind of uh, on her own plane. Like, she was.
Uh, yeah, Vanessa was like, don't you have somebody else that you need to be bothering right now?" Like, we done. We did what we came together to do. I'm moving on to some light skinned love pictures.
Right. And then that kind of gave him the side eye, like, wait a minute, but I'm not light skinned. So yeah, he's
Oh,
in a
yeah.
world of discomfort right now. But I think a lot of that stems from what I thought was the main kind of theme of the episode was pride. So Issa gives him the energy to go to the club after his boy Seven flaked out again, to meet up
Hmm.
with Spider, and they run into a homie from high school, Khalil, who looked hella West Coast, by the way.
Yeah, he did. Because he had like this big old giant coat on.
Yeah,
Like it's ever that cold
it is
in LA.
right. That was the first thing I said. I was like, okay, it's never that cold. It's never that
Yeah.
cold. Uh, but people be dressing like it is. It get
Right,
it
right.
get a minute under 60 degrees, and folks bust out winter coats. But yeah, so they run into Khalil, and immediately Daniel's on like the defense. He's like, "Oh no, we good. We
Yeah,
ain't on
like
the
I'm not
list,
trying to
but we
get up in this
good."
club.
Right.
Yeah. Issa was like, you better get up on this list. I am not waiting in that line.
Right. And then when they get inside, he's like, "Oh no, don't worry, we good. We got tables. We
We got
good."
tables.
Right.
Negro, you know you ain't got no tables.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you that I felt that whole thing through this episode. I mean, even if you want to take it back to the Vanessa part, right? Like he had pride with Issa, like he didn't want to be like, I'm about you right now. Like I'm trying to be with you or whatever. He had that pride. So he was like, you know what? I already told her you could stay here. Let me go do my own thing. let me go hang with Vanessa. And then Vanessa kicked him to the curb. He was like, oh, you know what? It's cool. I was going to the club tonight anyway. Like, I got, he never wants to show his vulnerable side.
Hmm.
So, out there in the club is where I think it amplified, where, I think sometimes that's where having a good homegirl is. Like Issa was pumping him up. Nah, get yourself to the club. Like you don't need this other dude to, you can't let this person hold you back. She was pumping him up the whole time outside at the club. Sometimes that lady friend is who's like, hey, sweet talking, like, yeah, let's, can you get us up in here so that to make it so that you don't have to, put your pride, up there. So
Hmm.
I think sometimes it's good to have like a good homegirl like that. I mean, obviously they have a little bit more chemistry than homegirl boyfriend or homegirl like friend type of thing, but she stepped up for him and tried to help him so that he didn't have to like show all of that
Right.
masculinity, like I got this type of thing, and checked him whenever she saw him getting a little too extra. Like, all right, calm down, just
Right.
go on over there and do your thing.
Right. They really played in tandem to each other in the club, and it brought me to a point that was also familiar when your homegirl or your girlfriend flirts with other men to get both of y'all drinks. How many times have
I've
you
done
done that?
that.
Yeah, I've been the recipient of many drinks that came from the result of girls that I was with flirting with dudes at the bar, or not even flirting, just being women at the bar,
Hmm.
and guys pouring drinks over them just to get their attention.
Hmm. She didn't set out to get free drinks. I mean, she was just trying to get some attention. But I mean, if you're gonna give me a drink, then
Right.
I'm not gonna. I'm also sleeping on a couch right now, so I'm not gonna say no. I loved how Daniel was like, "Don't get your card declined over there."
Right.
Yeah. So I definitely have done that, and it's like a players club. You got to use what you got to get what you want. So who's gonna say no?
Right. Right. Yeah, and look, he ain't had no pride when she came over with that drink and asked no questions because he knew what was
Right?
going on.
He tried to act jealous for a second, but then when she gave him that drink, he was like, "All right, it's cool."
Right. And on the low, we found out that Daniel used to be, or probably still is, maybe, I don't know, the weed man. He's the plug.
I feel like we kind of knew that from. Did we not know that from the first season? Like, I feel like he was doing that,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I
or
mean,
he at
look,
least was smoking back then.
yeah, the studio time ain't gonna pay for itself. Neither is the rent. I'm sure he's not getting paid for babysitting his niece. Like, so,
I love his niece
yeah.
too.
Clearly, money got to come from somewhere.
Yeah,
So
does he have a job?
I don't know. Wait, look, and then she said, wasn't there weed in the toaster when she was cleaning? So
Yeah.
Daniel's the plug.
Yeah, okay. Well, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Right. Look, unless he may be selling those SoundCloud beats. I don't know, uh, but right now he ain't got no job. But look, Issa ain't asking no questions because he got a roof and she need a
Right.
roof.
And every time she think about asking some questions, she's like, "I'm on the couch." Yeah.
Right. um, Daniel and his pride issues, and I think this is why he kind of still holds on to his thing for Issa, because she's the one who doesn't see the failure that he sees in himself.
Yeah.
Like, she sees him doing good things. Oh, you was with Ty Dolla Sign. Don't matter if you didn't make the album. You was still, grinding. Your music sounds good. So she has that history of like him starting in high school and him progressively getting better. And she sees that and compartmentalizes that, but he has so much more that goes with that. And then this animosity he had towards Khalil, where it's kind of like, I think I'm trying to quote it directly from memory, but he was like, uh, I got better, but Khalil got success, or
Mm-hmm.
something to that.
Got fame or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. Yeah. And I think this part, of the show was super relevant in, just African American life, right?
Hmm.
We don't often see, unless you're very close with someone, like the vulnerability in our black men. Like a lot of times they from birth, they're taught to be tough, man up, don't cry, you know push through. And I think, I really appreciated this, especially like having a son. I do try to, let him let it out from time to time. He's only 3, but I always keep that in the back of my mind that, it's not always acceptable for Black men to show that side of them. So I really appreciated this episode and this piece of the episode, where she's pulling that out of him, like trying to, even though they're not, sleeping together, they're not a couple, they are somehow close with each other, close enough that we can pull those pieces out of each other, or they could pull those out of each other and could say, you're still successful, you're making your way, you're doing your thing, keep your head up, push through, but not in a, you can't show me this side, and he was able to let his walls down and open up to her. And I don't know, I just really like that part of the episode.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, that's a struggle, even for me in my. I don't want to even admit it. It'll be late 30s later on this week on my birthday. But yeah, I mean, as a whole grown man, like I still have issues with admitting that or expressing to people that are close. You and I have had these conversations where I've held on to things for a while and then finally told you. But I mean, that's it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, and I'm glad that they showed that as well. So it's hard for Black men to be vulnerable, even in situations like I never felt like I had a home where that wasn't okay, but you still have your ego to deal with internally, and I mean it's this constant idea of comparing yourselves to others, and
Hmm.
we do it on Instagram, we do it on Facebook, we do it in person when we see people doing better than us, and instead of like being mindful of our own path. But that's a whole nother episode of the podcast. Yeah,
It's true. I'm glad that Issa was there, to pump him up and to put him back on track, and to let him know that it's okay to put your pride aside and go for what you want. You're never going to be successful if you don't, put yourself out there. Like, why are you trying to get to Spider? Get to the person that you already have a connection with. Like, get with Khalil, even if it doesn't pan out or whatever. That's just try, because that's your in.
right.
Yeah, he got successful or famous or whatever, then if he's inviting you in, don't, well, I'm not going to quote Kelly, but don't don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Okay, so I'm glad that they, at the end of all of that, he went ahead and made that phone call. He put his pride aside, made the phone call, and then instead of Issa going to bed, she was like, you know what, let's keep it going. And I think the fact that they had that connection in that moment, aside from the sexual chemistry that they have, or those memories they have in the back of each other, those perfect memories, I think now they're getting to something like that's deeper. And she got that phone call like, oh, we are interested in having you come in. She didn't say, oh, look, I might have a plug on a job. She said, oh, it was nothing, and she went over there and spent the night with him doing what he likes to do.
Right. Yeah,
So I enjoyed that.
yeah, but I also saw that as it, it almost repositioning them. Like Daniel is very open with her, and she's still very reserved about what's going on in her situation. And
Mm.
every time he opens up, she shuts she shuts
Shuts
down
it
in some
down.
way. Yeah. So even in last episode when he opened up for the kids, she shut it down. And in this episode, it was an opportunity for her to share what she's been going through, and maybe she already felt like she gave up her pride card by asking to stay a little bit longer. Uh,
Yeah, she did say that.
yeah,
She said, look, I didn't want to ask you if I could stay on your couch a little bit longer, but I had to do what I had to do.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, I did get a little worried when the massage hands came out because we all know
Oh,
what the
yes.
massage hands come to.
The massage hands moved down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've never seen a man give a massage that didn't end in a different kind of massage.
Yeah, I was like, oh, the massage hands is coming out. And then when he stopped massaging and she was like, oh, well, I'm not tired yet. I was like, oh, that's the woman's version of the massage hands. It's like, oh no,
It
I'm not
is.
sleepy. So I was like, oh, they about to get it.
I
So
thought about that.
yeah, yeah.
But when
So
they didn't, when he got up and walked away, I was like, okay, so they're toying with it. In that moment, I kind of felt like, no, it's only episode 2. They're not gonna do it right away. They're gonna pull this, string it out a little bit longer because
mhm,
it's almost like a will they, won't they
right.
fall back into that pattern. So I didn't think they were going to, but I did get nervous when I saw those massage hands.
Yeah, and then it brought back the idea that was set out in the first episode around like boundaries, and I was like, I don't know if they're gonna maintain boundaries, but it definitely looked like they did at least at the end of the episode. But that it almost sets itself up because I think the title of the next episode is backwards like, so that could mean you didn't effed up and now you you back where you started or something, or something's gone wrong. I don't
hmm
know.
And I purposely didn't watch the previews for next week because I didn't want it to taint what we were going to be talking about today. But
Uh,
um, we'll see. I feel like what they had before was history,
mhm,
and when you're young, you don't. I mean, sometimes it could be deep. You never know. But when you leave a relationship, you sometimes romanticize it. If you really did love that person, it's perfect. You romanticize it. But now, after they did the cheat, which was all physical and passionate,
mhm.
now they're moving on to another phase, which I hope is something that's deeper. And whether or not they get together, at least their friendship might be deeper. But Daniel is fine. I wouldn't have made it past the massage hands, to be honest. I might not have made it past the kiss last week.
Do you think that Issa is kind of putting herself back in the position that she may have been with Lawrence 4 or 5 years ago when he was on his thing?
And she wasn't focusing on her thing.
Right.
Um,
Is this a replay
I
for
don't
her?
know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really didn't think of that until you just said it. I think right now she just doesn't want to. I mean, again, the timeline is so funny because we've waited a year, but it's only been a couple weeks. I think she's just kind of like, I don't want to rush into something just because
Mhm.
it's available. So I don't think so. But I think naturally, if you spend time with someone and you see that vulnerable side and you open yourself up a little bit, even though she hasn't given it all, she's just kind of like wading through it. She doesn't want to rush through something, and I could appreciate that.
Yeah. The other question that's on my mind is Issa gonna be in some violent shit in every episode? In the first episode, it was World War III in the lift, in the party lift.
Mm-hmm.
Then in this
And now they're
episode,
doing a shootout.
right?
That totally took me back to college days, right? When we was like running to the bathroom to try to get away from gunshots.
Yes. I too have been in a club when the shootout has commenced.
But I like that Daniel jumped on top of her. He saved her from whatever gunshots might have been coming through.
Right, right.
So, I mean, you definitely want to have a dude like that on your side. He could have ran. He
Yeah,
could have ran the other way.
Well,
I feel like I dated some dudes that ran the other way.
yeah, I was just like, well, damn, Issa, you kind of slumming it in LA right now.
Well, Vanessa was right. Vanessa said, "Oh no, that place is ratchet as hell."
Right. Yeah,
So
she definitely was.
Vanessa and her light skinned love was like, "You're not gonna catch me up in there."
All right. So, any predictions for the next episode for Backwards Like?
Ooh, I mean, honestly, I think Issa's got to move on. I not move on as far as like away from Daniel, but I think she's still trying to propel herself forward. Even though they keep shooting her down at work, she still offers her services. Like y'all, she's putting them on. She's telling them, you need more black people out there. If it's me, if it's not me, if it's me, if it's whomever, you need some more black people out there, and they still shutting her down. So I think she's going to keep pushing forward there. I think she's probably going to try to take that apartment job, or she's going to try to get out of there, because I think she does feel like she's getting too comfortable. I mean, how easy would it have been for her to just move over to the bed, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, which, I mean, hey, she might move over to the bed, even at least for a little while. That couch was putting a crook in her neck, but once she's in that bed, that opens up a whole bunch of other
Yeah.
issues. So hopefully she's moving forward. Hopefully she's not, sticking with Daniel too long, at least in that comfortable pattern. Like, come back as a date or as a friend. Don't just gradually move from the couch to the bed to the back in the Lawrence situation type of thing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and hopefully that credit score goes up. Even, I know it take a long time for credit scores to go up. So hopefully she gets at least to like 427 next week. I don't know.
Right. Shout out to her for being frugal and packing those granola bars everywhere.
And she was like, "Ooh, well now it's what you say? Now it's
Trail
trail
mix.
mix."
Yeah, it's gonna be a long struggle to get that 400 to anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, she's gonna be
Well.
sleeping on somebody's couch. Hopefully, it's
Hmm.
hers soon.
What's your predictions?
Well, I saw the preview for next week, so
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it for you, but
Ah.
so I won't say my predictions. But yeah, we'll see what happens next week. Thanks you guys for listening again to Bianca and I as we we laugh and to talk a little bit about what happened last night on HBO and Issa Rae's Insecure. Check us next Monday, hopefully, if life doesn't get in the way. And if you have any comments, definitely let us know. Send them via email to ungentrified@kentwjohnson.com, or you can leave a comment on Instagram or Twitter @ungentrifiedpod. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Bye.